Darcy had quite a different career path to I think all of us here, and so on that note that he's going to speak to us today. Darcy held the following qualifications. He's a Bachelor of Science at the University of Adelaide, a Bachelor of Teaching at the University of SA, and a Doctor of Education at the University of Baguio. Darcy has had some 20 years of experience being involved as a teacher and he has worked in some 20 countries overseas. He's worked in the Philippines for one, but he's also worked in Southeast Asia, Pacific, Africa, Middle East and Central Asia. Wonder how he ever gets time to come home and stay. Anyway, one of Darcy's more recent assignments was that of the Australian project as the Australian project director in the highly acclaimed AusAID on basic education assistance, which was in the Philippines. And Darcy was the team leader and director. He is indeed proud of consistently ranked praise for that as being one of the best practices by AusAID. Now, Darcy could speak to us on a number of topics, but what he is going to speak to today is on the subject of Kiribati, which is out in the Pacific Ocean, and I know I'm invited to speak.
President Chris, fellow Rotarians and guests, thank you very much, Ivan, for a very flattering introduction there. As Ivan said, I've spent a bit of time in the last 12 months on a couple of projects, and when he said to me, you know, you can speak on either one, the mining one in the southern Philippines or the Kiribati one, I chose Kiribati because it's really a very unique and a very precarious country. And so today, I really want to tell you where Kiribati is. It's not Kiribati, it's Kiribati, so we finish it off with a VUS. I want to tell you some interesting things about Kiribati. I want to tell you why it is so precarious and why, in fact, it may not even exist in 35 years. Tell you a little bit about how AusAID is talking to Kiribati in the project that I'm involved with there. And then there is a Rotary Club just been or about to be chartered in Kiribati. I just want to tell you a little bit about that and give you an overview of what that hopes to do. So let's have a look. Where is Kiribati? Well, Kiribati is actually, and I think many of you probably went to school about the same time as I did, and so you would know it maybe as the Gilbert Islands or the Line Islands or the Phoenix Islands. It's 33 different atolls spread over a 3.5 million square kilometre area just north of the equator in the middle of the Pacific. The Gilbert Islands, which are on this side of Kiribati, the main island is Tarawa. And there's about 78,000 people that live in Tarawa. On the eastern side, we had Kiribati, or Christmas Island, not the Christmas Island near Indonesia that we hear about all the time with the boat people. This is part of what was originally the Line Islands. So the Line Islands there, Phoenix Islands in the middle, and the Gilbert Islands over on the western side. Tarawa is about just over 2,000 kilometres due north of Nandi, of Fiji. So it takes about 3 hours to fly from Nandi to Tarawa. Over the other side, Christmas Island is nearly 4,000 kilometres from Fiji, and it's about 2,000 or 3,000 kilometres up from Samoa, and the distance, if you could fly, there are no flights that go that way, between Tarawa and Christmas Island would be about 4 hours and be about 4,400 kilometres. As I said, originally called the Gilbert Islands, the Phoenix Islands and the Line Islands. Now if we look at Tarawa, the total population of Kiribati is about 160,000 people spread over these 33 atolls. Tarawa's got 78,000 of them just in southern Tarawa. This is the atoll of Tarawa. This is North Tarawa. The green areas are the land masses. The white is sort of the shoreline and coral area around the land masses. And you can see that the coral reef down here and the land masses means that this is a lagoon. And along this southern part of Tarawa, the little land masses, and this doesn't really do it justice, there are actually more little masses than that would indicate, are all linked by causeways. And every causeway is completely blocked except the very last one coming into Basio. That's the only spot where you have an opening from the sea to the lagoon. Now the locals do everything in the lagoon. So the lagoon is quite contaminated and foreigners are advised not to swim in there at all. The interesting thing is that Basio, this area here, the airport's down this end, and this is the port here. From the airport to the port's about 45 kilometres. One road only. On one side you have the lagoon, the other side you have the sea. Basio has 27,000 people, 70% of which are under 15. And that little area that's about 3.5 kilometres wide, 3.5 kilometres long, and about 200 to 700 metres wide, is the most densely populated area in Asia and the Pacific. It's more densely populated in Basio than it is in Hong Kong. This is a picture from the plane recently when I flew in here. This is South Tarawa. That Basio is up there. The airport's just around the corner here. This is Bakenabu here, which is this area here. This is the South Tarawa area. Basio airport here, about 45 kilometres. Single road through here. And the interesting thing is the highest point, which happens to be about here, is 3 metres above sea level. Basio has 2 roads. When you get down there, you actually have 2 choices. The rest of South Tarawa is a single road only. Now, some interesting facts. Only 40% of the 15 to 50-year-olds are actually in employment. And of that 40%, 85% work in government jobs. There's very little private sector, very little industry. So retirement age has been set by the government at 45 so that people can turn over a bit. People live together in family communities of something like 20 to 30 people in a group. And maybe in that group, with a lot of under 15-year-olds, there's probably 2 or 3 people that are working, and they're supporting the rest of that family unit. Here's some images of South Tarawa. There's the international airport. There's a typical Kiribati dancer, gas station, a normal sort of house. You'll see there's not many spots to put rubbish, so rubbish is just left lying around. You see the rubbish around these water areas here. There's not much to eat. Everything you eat has to be brought in on boats. So depending on whether the boats come in last week or 2 weeks ago, depends what you get to eat. There is, however, a little bit of local lobster which is available fairly regularly. So I always look for that for lunch. That's about $20 for a whole lobster, chips and coleslaw. That's by far the thick of the meals you can get there. Now, why is it so precarious? Why is Kiribati on the edge? There are 2 things contributing to it. The rising tides and climate change means that Tarawa could well be submerged in 30 years. And the Prime Minister, Antone Tong, has said that to his people. They have to look to possibly migrating in the next 30 years, because the country may not be in existence. Certainly Tarawa may not. Second thing is that there's very little access to potable water. There's the sign at the highest point in South Tarawa, 3 metres above sea level. Now, as far as the rising tide climate change is concerned, US Secretary General Ban Ki-moon was there in September last year and declared that Kiribati was at the forefront of climate change. And he urged the world to look at greenhouse gas emissions and the heating effect that had on melting ice and snow and rising the sea levels. And he called on the international community to look at ways of helping Kiribati. Now, this area here is low tide. This area here is the same area at high tide. Unfortunately, as Chris said earlier on, I have a small video clip here, which unfortunately we don't have quick time on that computer, so it won't play. But essentially it's about 20 or 30 seconds of high tide with the storm. And you can see here, you get some idea, huge waves going over these houses. And when you consider that most of South Tarawa is something like only 200 to 300 metres wide, and the highest point is 3 metres above sea level, you've got nowhere to go. You go backwards, you're on the sea on the other side. So it's quite frightening if you happen to be there under those sort of circumstances. The second thing is the accessibility to potable water. Now there are 6 water lenses under South Tarawa. 4 of them are polluted. 2 of them are available for use. One of them is quite reasonable, the other is very small. The bigger one, the one they're using, is right next to the airport. That's the airport runway there. And this is where the water lens is. There's 60 settlers living on top of that water lens. There's also an active cemetery. The water table is about 1 to 2 metres below sea level, below surface. There's a Tonkin water engineer up there at the moment and doing an ABI job up there. He believes that they have less than 2 years of water on Kiribati. Then they have to bring in all their water. What the government has to do, if they're going to save themselves here, is to stop the contamination of the water lenses, to stop the waste. Now, at the moment, water comes to certain areas in one line. They pay for the connection and they turn the water on for 2 to 3 hours a day. And it runs. People go up with their buckets and plastic jerry cans and stuff and get water. The rest of the time the water just lies there like it does there. It gets filled up with rubbish and attracts mosquitoes and so on. So that has to be tidied up. People pay only for the connection. They don't pay for how much they use. So again, that's another area that the government needs to address if they want to save their limited water resource. And the correct use of rainwater, so that it doesn't go back and contaminate the little water they got, is really important as well. And looking at better ways of recovery of rainwater. Now you may well say, what about desalination plants? Well, with a country like this, the economy just could never do that. The only reason they survive, when I go back to my earlier slide, it's just such a huge area. They sell off fishing rights, mainly to the Koreans and Taiwanese. That's how they get their resources. Now, with respect to the AusAID support project I'm involved in, it's called the Technical Vocational Education and Training Sector Strengthening Project. AusAID are giving 25 million over 5.5 years. And essentially we're there to help the government of Kiribati establish a technobox system that will allow people to graduate with international qualifications. so that they can add to the economy of Kiribati, but at the same time have qualifications that are recognised internationally, so that they can migrate with dignity and with skills that will allow them to get employment. There are two components to the program. I'm the project director, project manager. I go twice a year. I've got 7 staff working there full-time in either the Ministry of Labour and Human Resource Development, where we're looking at policies, we're looking at labour market identification and analysis, both in-country and internationally, and we're looking at making sure that the training institutions, post-secondary, in Kiribati, have courses that meet market needs. So there's the Kiribati Institute of Technology, where our project is housed. There's also the Marine Training Centre, which is very much tied up with the Germans and providing seamen to German commercial lines. And there's the Fisheries Training Centre. So they have 3 institutions post-secondary. Our job working with the ministry is to make sure the training in those centres matches the market needs and gives people an opportunity to qualify with qualifications that will allow them to migrate. The second component of the project is in the Kiribati Institute of Technology. Now what we're doing here is making sure that we use international standard courses. So we have what's called an auspice arrangement with TAFE South Australia. And we have Certificate 2 and 3 courses in automotive, accounting, small business, electrical, child, community service, metal fabrication, IT and business, carpentry and construction. And our first graduates from Cert 2 will happen this year. The biggest part of this program is ensuring that the lecturers can teach to that level. So beginning next year for the next 3 years, we'll have 6 of their lecturers here in Adelaide for 5 months at a time in all those different areas. So that not only do they understand, they have first-hand experience teaching courses at this level in South Australia in the TAFE system. Rotary in Kiribati. Well, there is a Rotary Club. I tried to ascertain yesterday whether it's actually been chartered or not, because when I left on October 17th, it still hadn't been chartered. Waiting on some final pay. I think they needed 5,000. They'd gone to the Australian High Commissioner to see if they could get a loan, because you've got to realise that people in Kiribati don't earn a lot, and they're supporting a big family unit. So there are 25 members now in the Rotary Club of Kiribati, of Tarawa, and about 20 of them actually come from the Ministry of Labour and HRD. And their average salary would be about $18,000 to $20,000 a year. And they are maybe 1 of 2 or 3 people earning for their family unit of 20 or 30 people. However, one of our staff came back last year from a short-term stint in Kiribati and spoke at the Rotary Club of Walkerville, and they've been working with the donations in kind. They've got a donation from Prospect and Payment, and they're about to send a shipment of school books so that the Rotary Club will have its first project. And I think, going in line with the hearing project in Tonga that we're involved in, Kiribati might also be an area that we could look to supporting in some way when this club gets up and going. So that's it in a nutshell. It is a very unique and precarious country, and I hope it will survive 30 years, but the natural elements are really fighting against it doing it. Thank you very much.
We still have a few more minutes to go, so anybody have a question to ask
centre of big battles with the Americans and the Japanese during which part of the lagoon was the battles fought in Tarawa?
Well, it was fought on the outside of the lagoon on that southern area.
On the southern strip.
Yeah, it didn't go inside the lagoon. It was on the seaside.
And they
The
survived
guns-
the Japanese.
The guns are along that basio, the highest, they're facing out to the sea.
There's that now.
What language do they speak? And
They speak Kiribati, Kiribati.
related to Tong or
No, it's quite unique.
and what's the gross national product and what's their income for
Their income is just selling fish. They don't grow anything. They don't manufacture
what
anything.
is their total income?
I don't know what the total amount is, though. But they struggle.
Just Bill.
Incidentally, they use Australian dollars. There's no currency. They don't have their own.
What about electric power for you?
Do they have limited electricity? Yep.
It's diesel generated.
Diesel generated.
Has there been any project for solar power?
No.
They need to get to Canada for that.
There's not.
Elsewhere.
You know, the reality is there's not a lot of surface area. If you take South Tarawa, people are living on pretty well every inch of land. You can see how wide it is.
Now, Roy, have you got a question?
Yes, a comment first. My first ever patrol in New Guinea was to an island group like that, and these people are now being resettled on Bougainville, the carpet people. But I've never seen, I'm a medical demographer among other things, I've never seen that percentage of 15 under. I don't believe it, but regardless, what do they do, are they doing about permanent planning?
Yeah. They're not doing a lot about family planning. They don't have TV. They do have a channel, but it rarely works. They were, when I first started working up there, getting the Australian network, the ABC International channel, but I think they moved the satellite, so they don't even get that anymore. The only channel they get there on a regular basis is CNN. But there is nothing going on at the moment for. There are a lot of donors there trying to help in different ways, but it is such a small country. Donors can't afford to put a lot of resources or money into it. The Prime Minister Antone Tong is very realistic. He's already looking at purchasing land and negotiating in Fiji for some of his people to be able to move there. And he's negotiating with the Australia Pacific Training Centre for continual training for people that do migrate to Fiji. So, yeah, I mean, there's a real awareness and realisation that, they have to do something. They're not just sitting there saying, well, let's hope it doesn't happen.
I think that they're unfortunate that the gonorrhea which wiped out stopped people reproducing in most of the Pacific didn't ever reach there. It's a white man's disease. It affected Australia and affected almost everywhere.
Now, Barry, you have a question, and then we'll have a
Well, see, I had two quick ones. The people started leaving already, and the 100,000 or so that remain, is there a level of acceptance that you have to start planning to move?
Yeah, some people have moved. I mean, like a lot of other singing. It's just a different way to life to what we're used to. And it's a life they feel very content with. Very little road rage, people get upset, there's no murders, you know. And when you consider the low income coming in, high level of unemployment, it's quite surprising.
And now, Chris, if you like, make a final question.
Thank you.
Close it down to there.
I guess my question, Darcy, thank you very much for the talk. What is the best avenue of support or aid from, say, a front like ours or a movement like ours for the people of Kiribati?
Well, I think obviously education is a way out in any of these countries. It's a way out of poverty, but for these people it's a way out of the country. So support for basic education, elementary and secondary, in terms of books and resources would always be important. And then a continuation of the focus on technical and vocational education so that they can migrate. Help programs like ours in terms of the provision of equipment in the Kiribati Institute of Technology. One of the problems when you get into those technical courses is work placements. You know, there's one car dealership, Taro Motors, in South Tarawa, the Toyota dealer. And there are 16 mechanics employed there, and there are 30 employed in the Department of Works. They're the only mechanics in the whole country. So they're the only places you could get work experience. Construction's a little bit different, but it's very much small scale. So any sort of scholarships or ways of helping people extend their education and qualifications, one, to help the situation in Kiribati, and two, to help them ultimately leave with some dignity and skills to allow them to get employment elsewhere would be good.
Thank you indeed, Darcy, for explaining well.
Sorry, just one point, Ivan. What I've been talking about the submersion is really around Tarawa, where most of the people live. Some of the outer islands, like over to Christmas Island, are not under the same threat. So it is possible that some of them may migrate, but none of those islands are very big.
Okay,